Welcome back to This is a Commander channel, where this is a Commander channel, and today I'm going to talk about Commander cards and rules in episode 3 of Tough Rules and Cool Interactions. But first, I do want to remind you all that this is a very new YouTube channel, and I would really appreciate it if you guys could fill out the survey that is linked down in the video description below to help give me some feedback on the video, what you liked, what you disliked, and also ask any questions about rules, interactions, and such that you may have about some cards so that I can use that to make some videos in the future. Also, feel free to ask those questions down in the video comments section as well. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at Galazeth Prismari, one of the Elder Dragons from the new Strixhaven set. The cost is 2 blue and a red. It is a legendary creature, Elder Dragon, flying. It's a 3/4. Has when Galazeth Prismari enters the battlefield, create a treasure token, and then he has the ability that artifacts you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast instant or sorcery spells. So it's an interesting thing, similar to something like what we've seen on Urza, but it's limited in what the mana can be spent on. And I've seen a lot of people have some questions, they've suggested things. I've seen some deck lists that include certain things that he may not actually be able to affect. So what kind of cards can you actually use this on? Well, of course you can use it to cast an actual instant and an actual sorcery from your hand, but there's also certain cards that have alternative casts that you can use his ability to help pay for. One of the most common examples is probably going to be something like Cyclonic Rift. Of course, Cyclonic Rift, you can pay a generic and a blue for an instant that returns target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. But that's not really what the card is used often for. It's most often used for its overload cost, which is 6 generic and a blue, and you may cast a spell for its overload cost. If you do, change the text by replacing all instances of target with the word each. So it returns all of your non-land permanents that you don't control to its owner's hand. So it's kind of like a one-sided board wipe, one of the most popular in all of Commander. And so this card, that overload, you actually can use his ability, you can use Galazeth's ability to pay for that overload cost. And that's because, again, it is an alternative cost. So let's take a look at another card like Capsize. That's an instant for a generic and a blue, and it has buyback of 3 generic. So Capsize says return target permanent to its owner's hand. And then Buyback says that you may pay an additional 3 generic when you play this spell. If you do, put it into your hand instead of your graveyard as part of the spell's effect. So like I said, Buyback is a additional cost. So it's something that you pick while the card is on the stack. I'm going to make future episodes that go into the steps to casting a spell. It's a little bit more in depth than some of this stuff. I don't want to get into the intricacies of it just yet. So keep an eye out for that episode sometime down the line. But just know that that is something that you can use Galazeth's ability to help pay for, is something like Buyback. And another thing that you could use it for is on spells like Rite of Replication that have a kicker additional cost. So you can use Galazeth to help pay for that kicker. You can use it to pay for the actual Rite of Replication itself for 2 generic blue, but then you can also use them to pay for the 5 generic kicker cost on the Rite of Replication or any other card that has a kicker cost. So that's another additional cost that you can use. One final one that I'll mention is something like Flashback, spells like Bash to Bits that have a flashback cost, and that's where you can cast that card from your graveyard for its flashback cost. Again, you are casting it in this manner, so you can use Galazeth to cast flashback spells. The one category that I see a lot of confusion on, I've seen some people that didn't even know that they could use it on some of those additional costs, but the area that I've seen the most confusion on, the most people get wrong, is when it comes to cycling. You'll see cycling on other cards that are permanents, things like creatures and such, but you'll also see cycling on instants and sorceries. So an example of this would be Complicate, which is a instant for 2 generic and a blue, and you can counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. But then it also has cycling for 2 and a blue. And it says, when you cycle Complicate, complicate, you may counter-target spell unless its controller pays 1. So it's kind of a cool thing in that you're able to do this cycling effect of the card. You discard it and you draw a card, so it's kind of like a loot effect, or more like a rummage effect. But you still get an effect from it even when you cycle. The thing is, when you cycle a card, it's not actually an alternate cost, an alternate casting form of that card. Cycling is actually an activated ability, similar to like an activated ability you would see on a creature or an artifact, something like that. So because it's a ability that you are activating and not an alternate way of casting a card, you cannot use Galazeth to pay for cycling costs. So I've seen a lot of people make that error, so I hope you guys are not trying to build Galazeth around cycling and things like that. You can still run those kind of cycling cards because he can still pay for those cards, and then if you just need to cycle and filter that card out for something else, then hey, it's still pretty good. But don't go into a match assuming that you're going to be able to use his ability to pay for that cycling ability. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Again, please check out that link down in the video description to go to that survey and fill that out. Also, check the video description for all the rules from covered in this episode. These are all going to be in the 702 section of the comprehensive rules, which go over all these abilities and things like that. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Tough Rules and Cool Interactions. Please subscribe for more episodes. I'm going to be getting, oh gosh, I have hundreds of these ideas written down. So I'm going to keep going through some of the Strixhaven cards and then start kind of going into general kind of things that I just see people make common mistakes in Commander. So I hope you guys have enjoyed all of it. Have a good one. Ta-ta.